All right, today we are talking about something called the spike method. It's a really simple, but honestly super powerful strategy for anyone who's ever felt like they just kind of fade into the background.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a room full of people, you have a few conversations, and then you leave with that nagging feeling that you made like zero impression? That if someone was asked about you the next day, they'd just draw a total blank?
It's such a common experience, right? You try to be engaging. You talk about the weather or your job, all the usual stuff, but it just feels like you're wearing social camouflage. You end up being part of the background noise instead of a voice that actually gets heard. But what if I told you there was a simple, totally achievable strategy you could use to not just stand out, but to become genuinely interesting and memorable in pretty much any social or professional setting? Okay, let's dive into it. It's called the spike method, and you can think of it as the ultimate antidote to being forgettable. It's a way to deliberately build a more distinctive personality. And honestly, the best part is that absolutely anyone can do this. So what in the world is a spike? Well, it's basically a focused, deep dive into a niche, maybe even a slightly obscure topic. It's not about being a know-it-all. It's about finding your own unique little pocket of knowledge that makes you instantly stand out. You know, our brains are just hardwired to notice and remember things that are different, and a spike is basically designed to do exactly that. And this slide right here, this contrast is everything. On one side, you've got the generalist. You know a little bit about a lot of things. That's fine, it's useful, but it's also really common, which makes it forgettable. On the other side, spiky knowledge is narrow, but it's incredibly deep. It works because our brains remember unique things way better than common things. It's the difference between saying, "I follow politics," and saying, "I'm fascinated by the history of political campaign posters." See? One is generic, the other is a hook. It makes people lean in. Okay, so how do you actually go about developing a spike? It sounds like a lot, but it's way less daunting than you might think. It really just boils down to a simple 3-step guide. First up, you've got to identify a genuine curiosity. Don't pick something you think sounds smart. Pick something you actually truly find fascinating. Step 2, you dive headfirst into that niche. Read the books, watch the documentaries. Just become the person to talk to about that one thing. And number 3, you craft your narrative. This is so important. You have to learn how to share what you know in a way that's engaging and fun, not like you're giving a lecture. So right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, this sounds cool and all, but what on earth could my spike be? It feels like a huge question, I get it. But the options are literally endless. And a lot of the time, the quirkier it is, the better. And just look at how creative you can get with this. Your spike could be the secret history of household cleaning products, or the absolutely bizarre biology of snakes. Imagine being the person who knows how to find edible plants growing in a city, or who can explain the amazing physics behind a perfect soap bubble. These aren't just random facts. They are doorways to incredible conversations. All right, let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. We're going to look at the difference between a pretty typical conversation and one that's been totally transformed by the spike method. So picture the scene. A networking event, a party, you've been there a million times. The conversation starts, and it feels like everyone's reading from a very, very boring script. And there it is. The question that just drains the life out of so many interactions. It immediately puts people into these predictable little boxes. Oh, I'm in finance. I work in marketing. And so often, the conversation just flatlines right there. Okay, but now let's rewind. Let's inject a spike into that exact same scenario. Instead of just waiting for the predictable questions to come your way, you lead with something that sparks some real curiosity. See? This is a complete pattern interrupt. It doesn't matter if you're the snake facts person or the cleaning lore person, dropping a fascinating little nugget like this changes everything. It completely bypasses the boring script and jumps straight into a memorable exchange. You're no longer just that person from marketing, you're the person who knows a weird amount about snakes. And that is infinitely more memorable. So as we wrap this up, the question really shifts from what is a spike to what will your spike be?
This is your chance to take control of how people see you and, more importantly, how they remember you. So, let's just recap the big takeaways here. First, developing a spike is all about making yourself distinctive in a really positive way. Second, it's a tool for turning that dull, boring small talk into something fun and memorable. And maybe the most important thing to remember is this is not about having a certain type of personality. It's a skill. And just like any other skill, it can be learned and developed by anyone. Because ultimately, the knowledge you choose to really dig into becomes a part of your identity. It shapes the stories you tell and the connections you end up making.
And that's the thought I really want to leave you with. In a world full of generalists, what is that one fascinating thing you want to be known for? The choice is all yours.